Let's talk about something really serious: workplace violence. It's a major threat to the health of any organization and honestly to the well-being of every single person in it. Understanding what it is and where it comes from, well, that's the absolute first step to stopping it. So let's dive in. Here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by getting a really clear definition of workplace violence, so we're all on the same page. Then, we'll look at the 4 different types it can take. From there, we'll explore the real costs, the ripple effects that spread out from these incidents. And finally, we'll get to the most important part: what we can actually do to prevent it. Okay, first things first. Before you can solve a problem, you have to agree on what the problem is. So, what do we actually mean by workplace violence? Getting this definition right is crucial because it's the foundation for every policy and prevention strategy. Now, here's the formal definition. And you'll notice it goes way beyond just a physical fight, right? It covers abuse, threats, assaults, basically anything that makes someone feel unsafe at work. This broad definition is so important because it's what gives companies the legal and procedural framework they need to act. Yeah, the scope here is a lot wider than most people think. We're talking about a whole spectrum of behaviors. It could be obvious, like a physical assault, but it also includes things like threats, intimidation, and even sabotaging company property. If it creates a hostile or unsafe environment, it counts. All right, so now that we know what we're talking about, we can start to break it down. It turns out workplace violence isn't just one thing. By sorting it into 4 distinct types, we can get a much better handle on where the threats are coming from, and that's the key to stopping them. So, here are the 4 main categories: criminal violence, service user violence, worker-on-worker violence, and finally, violence that spills over from a personal relationship. Each one has a totally different source, which means each one needs a different strategy. Let's look at them one by one. First up, we have type 1, which is criminal violence. In this case, the attacker has no connection to the business. You can think of a robber holding up a store or a random act of violence. The workplace just happens to be the location of the crime. The motive has nothing to do with the company itself. Type 2 is different. This is when the violence comes from the very people the business is there to serve, the customers, clients, or patients. It usually blows up from frustration or a conflict over the service being delivered. This is a huge risk in places like hospitals, retail stores, or anywhere serving the public. Now we turn inward with type 3. This is worker-on-worker violence. We're talking about aggression between colleagues, from a supervisor, or even from an ex-employee. This stuff doesn't just happen out of the blue. It often grows from long simmering conflicts. And type 4 is closely related, but comes from outside the job. This is when a personal issue, like domestic violence, follows an employee to work, putting them and everyone else in danger. So we have defined the types of threats, but that's really only half the story. The real impact is what happens after. It's like a stone dropped in a pond. The ripples of damage spread out and affects everyone. Let's look at the true cost here. So what does happen after an incident? The cost isn't just about a single event. It's more like a shockwave that hits people and the entire organization on so many different levels, and the effects can be absolutely devastating. You can really see the damage in 3 areas. Physically, the consequences are obvious and terrible, from injuries all the way to death. But the psychological scars are just as deep. We're talking PTSD, depression, and a workplace filled with fear. And then, for the business, productivity tanks. Legal bills pile up, good employees leave, and the company's reputation can be left in tatters. When you look at consequences that severe, it's pretty clear that just reacting after something happens is not a real strategy. The only way to win is to get ahead of the problem. So now we get to the most important part. How do we actually prevent this? The whole game here is shifting from being reactive to being proactive. It's about designing an environment where violence just can't get a foothold. Instead of trying to clean up the mess afterward, you have to build the defenses before you need them. A good prevention strategy really stands on 3 pillars. Number 1, you need crystal clear zero-tolerance policies. No gray areas. Everyone has to know the rules. 2, you've got to train people. They need to know how to spot the warning signs and exactly what to do when they see them. And 3, you have to provide support, like counseling programs, to help people manage stress before it boils over. This quote just nails it. The foundation has to be a policy that leaves 0 room for doubt. It needs to say loud and clear that threats, intimidation, and any form of violence will not be tolerated, period. That clarity is what gives everyone the power to act. And that really brings us to the final and most important question. I want you to think about your own workplace. Is it actively building those defenses with clear policies, with training, and with support? Or is it just kind of hoping nothing bad happens, waiting for a crisis to force its hand? The answer to that question matters a lot. It could literally be the difference between a safe workplace and a tragedy.